Okay, just carrying on in the vein of my spiritual journey and in the spirit of the homework for this class I'm taking with Reverend Maria Christina. So she's asking us to reflect on our spiritual journey. So I was just going to talk about my childhood a little bit. This is I'll put this in the playlist for the contemplative, and this is just to reflect kind of on my beginnings. So when I was born, my dad was going to seminary to become an ordained minister out there in Kansas City, Kansas. So my dad went to some theological seminary in Kansas City to get his master's in divinity or whatever it is that gets you to become a minister. And then he got the church, the Wellburn Church or whatever in Kansas City, and that's where I must have been born when my dad was still in seminary. And then, because I just remember my mom saying that my grandma came out because she was a school teacher, and so it worked out that I was born in the summer so that she could come help my mom a little bit with the new infant. But they were in the parsonage by then, and the parsonage is the house attached to the church where the minister lives. And anyway, I don't really have any memories from Kansas City, Kansas. Just seen movies, home videos. My understanding is that my sister and I were very much dressed up, and I don't know, I guess I kind of feel for my mom, that she was an introvert, so insecure, and she was put in this really front-facing position where she felt like all eyes were on her and the kids. I don't know. But I definitely spent my first years as the daughter, the little baby daughter of the minister. And it was always my dad's intention to return to the military. Originally, he just assumed that he'd go back into the Air Force. So in order to be a chaplain in the military, you have to have had 2 or 3 years. Anyway, a certain amount of time you had to have had working as a minister in the church. So my dad had to check that off his list. But he always was going to go back into the military. And he was in the reserves, I'm pretty sure. No, I'm positive he was in the reserves while he was a minister there in Kansas City, Kansas. So the Air Force didn't have any chaplaincy slots available at the time when my dad was eligible to become a chaplain in the military again. So that's how he ended up in the Navy. The Navy had a slot. So he got commissioned as a naval officer at the lieutenant level, and we moved to California. I'm not a memory person. It's I struggle with memories. I have one memory when I was in preschool of doing a capital E with a lot of lines, like a comb, instead of just like the 3 to make a capital E. And I thought that if you did more, like, that was better. Like, I don't know if I can articulate it very well, but it was this philosophy of like doing extra, doing more. And that going that little extra bit was an indication that I was better, that I would get praised more for doing more. And the teacher was like, that's too many lines. There's only 3 in a capital E. You've done too many lines. And I was like, what? You mean more isn't always better? And I was like hurt and confused. But I had to accept it because I was being told the proper way to write a capital E. And that really is my first memory as a preschooler. Oh, look at this beautiful cherry blossom, you guys. So pretty. Just walking the dog through my neighborhood. Yeah, there's 2 cherry blossom trees here. That one and that one. Okay, so California, like Los Alamitos, and then we went to Alameda, and I have a few more memories of Alameda. I remember like making a fort out of our packing boxes. With my sister, I don't know. It's all I remember, like the houses, and there was like a big grassy field in the middle. We would like play, and that's where we made our fort. And like slip and slide in the summer. But I was very young because we moved to Antioch in 2nd grade when I was 7. We did half the year in Alameda. My mom started working for Brentwood Middle School as the librarian while we were still, she got the job. And for a little short while, she had to commute a really long way until we got to Antioch. But starting when we moved to Antioch, my mom worked, and Lori and I were like latchkey kids. I guess I'm starting to have more memories now, right? We're in Antioch, halfway through 2nd grade. We're at Sutter Elementary. Yeah, and I'm just doing elementary school, and that's when my dad was at, he was at Alameda, and then he was at Treasure Island. So it was a couple of Bay Area tours at the same time. And I think my parents thought it was like a good situation there in Antioch because my dad's Uncle Bill, his dad's brother, lived in Concord and Pittsburgh and in that area. So it was the first time that my sister and I had been close to family, and we did a lot with my dad's cousins, or more than I'd experienced up to that point. And it was good because then my grandma and grandpa could come down, and my grandpa could see his brother, and my dad's cousin Carol had 2 daughters that were close to my sisters and my age. And yeah, that was when my dad was at the Brig, and he would take my sister and I with him, not like every Sunday, but we did go occasionally to my dad's Sunday service at the Brig, and we had to go through the security. And it was at the Brig because my dad was doing so much counseling of these prisoners, military prisoners. And what he was discovering was how much trauma they'd all experienced as children. And I think there was probably a lot of abuse and sexual abuse. And it just, I think it's hard for that kind of stuff not to affect you. And, yeah, I think he kind of switched how he interacted with my sister and I during that time, just because his job during the day was listening to so much childhood trauma that he didn't want to do anything that could be taken the wrong way or seen as abuse. Obviously I'm not my dad, I'm not in his brain, so I just know that those are conversations that we had later on. Yeah, so living at that house in Antioch, halfway through 2nd grade through till 6th grade, finished up. It was the longest I'd lived in one place. I remember my 4th grade teacher was Mr. Rowalt. My 5th grade teacher, no, my 5th grade teacher was Mr. Rowalt, and my 6th grade teacher was Mrs. Allison. And my 4th grade teacher was Mrs. Mack. She was very strict. I don't know, whatever. And then from Antioch, my dad got the opportunity, he got selected to go to this advanced chaplaincy school in Rhode Island, in Newport, Rhode Island. So, yeah, we sold the house. We sold the house to this blind woman and her husband, and packed up. We did a cross-country road trip, so that was kind of cool. I think that's when we saw like Mount Rushmore, and we went through Yellowstone Park. I know, we did like a really cool cross-country road trip. And then we lived in the officers' housing there. It was in Middleton, Rhode Island. And I just did that for 7th grade. And they had kind of an interesting system. It was split up between like A, B, C, and D. And the A class of 7th graders were like the smart ones. And the B was just like, you know, like the next rung down. And then C and then D were the kids that were like really struggling academically. And I was pretty average, so I started out in the B group, which was a big class. Most people fell into B because it was just like, you're a good student, but you're not like super high. And then like a month, I don't know how long, it wasn't very long, but they saw something in me. I don't know. I got moved up to the A group. So that was like super validating. I was like, the counselor called me in and she's like, the teachers want to move you up to the A group. And I smiled. She's like, oh, I can tell you're really happy about that. And I was like, heck yeah. So yeah, I went up to the A group. And yeah, Rhode Island, it was kind of interesting. My dad didn't have a church that he was responsible for. So on the weekends, we kind of traveled around New England, and we went to all these like old New England churches and explored the region. Yeah, and it snowed. I remember the snow. I remember my room there. I had the tiny room, and so my mom got me a fold-out couch, and so I could like fold it up and it was just like a couch. And I did like a stovetop on the top of my dresser. And I don't know, I just pretended that that room was like my little studio apartment, and I pretended to be grown up. And I spent a lot of time there. I think my mom thought something was really wrong with me in 7th grade. I was very solitary. She could not figure out what my deal was in 7th grade. She did not understand like why I kept to myself so much. I don't know. What I remember is that she thought I was sick. She was convinced that there was something wrong with me. And I remember her taking me to the doctor so much. Like, there has to be something wrong with her. She's not well. She's not well. She's not well. I went to the doctor so many times that year, and I think I've really kind of pushed a lot of this down. I remember sitting with a phlebotomist and then just taking out like 10, I don't know if it was 10, it felt like a lot. It was at least like 8 vials of blood at the same time. It was a lot of blood, just vials and vials of blood. Multiple times, not just like one time. Because my mom was convinced there was something wrong with me. And they were like just running all these tests. And I was sitting out in the waiting room, and this black male nurse like came over to me in a moment when I was kind of like alone on my own. I don't know where my mom was at the time. And he knelt down and he like just looked at me and he said, "This is going to be over one day. You're going to make it through this." And I'm wondering if, like, I'm looking at this through my 50-plus-year-old, brain now, but I really wonder if he saw that there was nothing wrong with me, that I had this mom who was convinced that something was wrong with me. She was just taking me to the doctor all the time, just forcing them to do more and more tests. And I just really feel like he was an angel for me in that moment, in that time of my life. And he tried to give me some hope and strength and reassurance and tell me that everything was going to be okay. And if I'm honest, I really feel like my mom had a bit of the like Munchausen thing going on. She just was so sure I was ill, and I was fine. I just wanted to keep to myself. I wanted to have this pretend grown-up life where I had this little apartment, and I could hang out in my apartment. I don't know. I guess if I'm talking to my younger self here, this 12-year-old 7th grade self who's going through that in Rhode Island. Just, I was really happy academically. I loved being in my A class. I liked my little room. I liked how I had it set up. I enjoyed that I put the little construction paper curly Q things on top of my dresser to make a little stove, and that I could pretend I was a grown-up. I was observing my sister, whose room was just like covered in Duran Duran posters. I was trying to be a little bit like her. I was trying to fit in. I had some posters on my wall, like Leif Garrett. I liked Andy of Duran Duran, not because I really liked him, just because I felt sorry for him, because he was the one that the fewest girls liked. So I was like, I'll have you, Andy. I don't know. I just wish my mom had left me alone a little bit and just let me be who I was during that time. Just let me stay in my room. Let me be contemplative and introverted and inward and do my own thing and just not worry so much. And I wish that she hadn't taken me to the doctor so much and insisted that they find some kind of disease that, you know, wasn't there. I was fine. Yeah, I don't know. If I could go back to talk to that 12-year-old self, all I would really do is go up and stand behind that black male nurse and just repeat what he said and emphasize it. I don't know why I had to go through that. And it was certainly not for my benefit. And it's bringing up a lot of emotions for me, because at the end of the day, I feel like I was just a toy for my mom, an object for her to manipulate and do things with that she wanted or that she felt needed to be done, without ever taking a moment. She just had a really hard time seeing things from anybody else's perspective. And I'm just really unsure. I just wonder why she was so sure there was something wrong with me. I wasn't living the 12-year-old life that she had wanted for herself. She was trying to make me live according to an idea that she had in her head that she wished she'd been able to live when she was 12. And I was living my own life as my own person in completely different circumstances. There was nothing about my childhood that was like my mom's childhood. And yet she wanted to superimpose upon me this, what being 12 looked like, what it consisted of. And I just didn't fit into that idea, that mental image she had. So I'll stop there. I'll carry on with 7th grade in my next video. Bye.